There is no one perfect practice routine that suits every single musician, but there are four simple principles you can follow to find the right one for you. I'm going to explain what they are and show you how you can use them to get a great practice routine. And I'll give you some examples of how I've applied them myself. Now, these steps will hopefully sound pretty much just like common sense as we go through them, but so many musicians don't take the time to put them into practice. And even if they do, you need to go through them in the right order for them to really work. So, let's do this thing. And the first step to having a really solid practice plan is to know what your goals are. You've got to be clear on what success looks like for your practice to make any sense. Otherwise, it's just taking you in a random direction rather than in a clear, straight line to where you want to get to. And when you know what your goals are, this is what's going to allow you to decide, well, what's in and what's out. And it's going to allow you to prioritize how much time do I spend on different things. So, to take an example, one of my goals might be to play melodic solos over jazz standards. But even that is not going to be clear enough because, well, which jazz standards am I interested in playing over what tunes? And what exactly does it mean to play a melodic solo? Until I decide what that means to me and what the area that I'm playing in is, I can't get a really clear idea of what the practice topics should be and how I should work on them. And the second step is to match activities to those outcomes. So by setting goals, we know what outcomes we want. Now we get to ask, well, what practice activities are going to get me there? Which are the ones that I've got already or I'm doing okay in, and where are the gaps? And that's when I can really start to see what bits of the practice I need to put together. And this is not about going into the details of specific exercises at the moment. It's more about what are the areas that I need to work on. So going back to my example, if my goal is to play melodic solos over jazz standards, there are going to be quite a lot of different areas in that. I'm going to need to know some jazz standards. Do I know the chord progressions for them? I'm going to probably want to be able to play the melodies of those jazz standards as well. Do I know those? I'm going to have to be able to improvise some melodic lines, some basic stuff. I'm going to need to work on that. And there'll be other things there. It may be, depending on where I am, that I want to do some work on rhythms and improvising rhythms as well. So you can see that we're not into what exact exercises am I going to do, but we're working out what are the different components that I need to put together to get to my goals. Okay, so we've done the preparation work in those first two steps. And yes, it takes a little bit longer doing it this way, but it's really well worth it. Because now we get on to step 3, which is actually to put the practice tasks in the diary. So by now you've probably got a number of different practice goals, and for each practice goal you've probably got a few different areas that you need to work on. And this now puts you in a position to decide what you're going to work on each day and how much time you're going to spend on the different aspects of it. And it's really good to write these down, actually map it out, and that way you're making the decision. You're not just seeing what's going to come up each day, but you're making a specific decision. And be as specific as possible about what you're going to do when you actually write this down. This is going to help with two things. It makes it more likely that you actually do the practice. It decreases your resistance to getting started in the first place. And it's going to make your practice much more effective because you've got written down, this is exactly what I'm doing, all the details, I can just get in and get straight on with it. So exactly how you're going to do this, what it looks like to actually plan things out on a practice session by practice session basis is going to vary depending on your situation and goals. So let me just give you a couple of examples of some ways that I've done this at different times in the past. Not to say that this is exactly how you have to do it, but to give you some inspiration. And when I've been through stages of working really quite deep on a small number of topics, something that I really like is actually to use a diary like this. This is just a normal diary from a couple of years ago. And if I look through where I've gone through it, it just happens to have pages for monthly planning. So what I've written down there is just what are the big things that I think I'm working on. And I've just made my own things up here. So I've got an idea of some of the things that I'm working on that month, but I've also got a 3-month focus there. So I'm thinking, what are the big goals that I'm working on over 3 months? What does that look like in terms of which things I might want to work on for a month? And then for each week, I'm just kind of putting in, well, what is the very specific thing that I'm going to work on that day? And I've actually, difficult to see there, but I've actually done some very basic ideas for, well, what is the focus for the week? So I'm using this to write down on a regular basis, what's my 3-month goals? What they're really big picture things. So what are the activities that I might want to focus on in a given month to get there? And then on a weekly and a daily basis, what does this mean in terms of, I think, the specific exercises I'm going to work on are going to be? And another situation you might find yourself in is when you've got a lot of small things that you want to work on a regular basis. And when I've been in that situation, I have liked to use flashcards. So just make some flashcards for it. And I might be thinking that I'm going to do 5 minutes practice on, or whatever it is. It could be 10 minutes, could be 20 minutes on each of these things a day. But there's too many for me to get through them all every day. So what I'm just going to do is, maybe I'm going to do top 3. So I just take the top 3 flashcards off, do the practice on those. I put them to the bottom of the pile, and then the next day I can just go from the top again. I can keep circling around. So lots of different things here. Could be all sorts of stuff. And oh, okay, I see this final one says, like this video. I guess that must be a sign. So I'd love it if you take a second to click the like button if you're enjoying this video. Thanks. So that's just 2 ideas of how you might go about writing practice topics down. Develop something that works for you. I've done lots of different things at different times, depending on what my goals are. And I might mix things. I might write things in the diary and use those flashcards as well. There's nothing to say that you can't do that. And finally, there's step 4, which is to review what is actually happening. So 2 sides to this. The first is, are you actually doing the practice that you've said you're going to do in your plan? And the second part is it actually getting you results? Because let's face it, no practice plan is ever likely to be absolutely perfect right from the start when you've just created it theoretically. So you are going to need to check in, see what's working, what isn't. Do I need to make adjustments? And also, sometimes we have the great intentions to do the practice plan, and then we don't follow through. So you do want to check that. Am I actually doing what I say? If not, why not? What needs to change so that I make it happen? Okay, so let's quickly review those 4 steps again. You want to know what your goals are. You've got to know where you're headed. You want to match activities to outcomes. What are the things you need to work on, the broad things that are going to get you to those goals? You need to actually get those steps in the diary. What are you going to do on a day-to-day basis? And make sure as you're doing it that it is aligned with those activities you've identified. And then step 4, you're going to want to review what's actually happening, because you've got to know whether you're doing what you say and whether it's working. Now, when you get all this down, you'll have a great plan for your practice. And the other side to things is that you're able to really carry it out effectively. So I definitely recommend that you check out my video on how to practice effectively next. And if you like the special practice and performance tips that I only share with subscribers, then head on over to playinthezone.com and sign up for the emails. They're free. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.